From Deadhouse by John Temple. 15 minutes ago, Tracy Mackin saw her first dead body. Now here she is, a summer intern, riding with a death investigator to confront a second one. In the back seat of the aging red Chevy Blazer, Tracy tries to prepare for what's coming. An old lady, dark patches on her neck, possibly murdered. That's all Tracy knows. She wonders if there will be blood. She wonders how she will handle it. Up in the driver's seat, Mike Chichwalk is whistling along with the jazz on the stereo, squinting at the scrap of yellow paper he wrote the directions on. The Blazer crosses a river and weaves through flat streets crowded with row houses, churches, and taverns, past an asphalt basketball court. Tracy knows, of course, that she'll see plenty of bodies during her internship at the coroner's office. She just hadn't expected quite so many quite so soon. Her first shift at the coroner's office began half an hour earlier. She was still meeting folks when a deputy coroner asked her to help him turn a body over to a funeral home director. The deputy wheeled a gurney into an elevator, and Tracy rode down with him, feeling jumpy right next to that bright blue plastic body bag. And then, unexpectedly, in the garage, the funeral director unzipped the bag to check the identification bracelet. Tracy saw her, the sleeping face and the limp arm, the deep incision that began below her shoulder and headed for the stomach, the autopsy cut. Tracy knew the woman had felt no pain, but nevertheless she winced. How could such a brutal cut not hurt? The case file said the dead woman was 38 years old and a heroin addict. Tracy hadn't expected such a young corpse. She stared at the body, and a childish horror image popped into her head, the dead woman sitting up on the gurney, just blinking and awakening. Moments later, Tracy is swept into this new call, the old lady found dead in her home. Police found the marks on her neck and thought the woman might have been strangled. The young black deputy coroner, Tiffany Hunt, reminded the older white one, Mike Chichwalk, to take along an elderly abuse check sheet, saying quizzically, "Why's someone want to hurt Grandma?" A whole gang of people, deputy coroners, a doctor, Tracy, another summer intern, headed down to the basement garage. They took two vehicles. Mike drove his Blazer, and Tiffany took a white van they called the Wagon. Now the street tilts upward, and the Blazer begins climbing a steep hill, the coroner's wagon trailing. As they wind up the hill, the city rises behind them, and the streets grow narrower. Greener, too, though very different from Tracy's semi-rural neighborhood, northeast of Pittsburgh. Tracy wonders if the sight she's about to see will change her. Tracy Mackin is tall and gangly, all adolescent elbows. Her face scrunches up in alarm when she sees something gross, and she says, "Wow," a lot. Someone has given her a deputy's uniform shirt, several sizes too big, and the white shirt billows around her narrow frame. After meeting her, one deputy coroner muttered to another that the intern seemed to be getting younger and younger. What is she, 14? Tracy is 20, one of a dozen college students starting summer internships at the coroner's office this week. Another intern, Carrie Welch, sits beside her in the Blazer's back seat. Tracy wants to work in a crime lab someday, and figures this is a step in that direction. Not the antiseptic side of science, which she likes, the test tubes and the slides, but a hard step, one that involves actual blood and gore, and stink. The dead woman Tracy is going to see lived in the neighborhood known as the Southside Slopes. The South Side lies alongside the Monongahela River, and most of its residents live in the flats. Up in the hill, the streets narrow and the frame houses are tall and thin. Several hundred of them clinging to the slopes, clustered here and there, wherever the Germans who settled the hills could flatten out a broad enough terrace to pour a foundation. It is a city neighborhood, spotted with fire plugs and graffiti, but patches of woods survive on the steepest parts, and rabbits hop along the streets. From the Blazer's back seat, Tracy spots a police car sitting on a narrow street that borders the weathered brick wall of the monastery garden. 5 middle-aged women huddle on the green stoop of a nearby house. The pavement is wet, and the air is fresh on this early June afternoon, washed clean by a recent shower. From Deadhouse by John Temple.